more prepared for business.
Pure money in your pocket as the seller. Cash-free, debt-free.
So you think you are walking away with a big payout? Well, if you do not know what working capital is, it can be some trouble for you. Because it's not uncommon that you can lose up to 20% of your deal. I mean, imagine selling your company for 10 million US dollars and then 20% goes to, and it's 2 million US dollars.
Going to the buyer.
Yes. And I would not give that away. Would you do that? No. And that's why we have our business lawyer here today.
Hi.
Kat is going to explain it and break down what working capital is and why we should know about it to avoid surprises and bad deals.
Yep.
So welcome to this episode. At the end of this episode, you'll be more prepared for business.
And selling your company.
Yes.
Or buying.
Or buying.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go. I mean, this sounds like a big thing.
Yeah.
I'm amazed.
So, what is working capital? And in relation to M&A, buying and selling companies, what is net working capital? And why is it one of the most negotiated and disputed matters between the buyer and the seller? Because it's pure money in your pocket as the seller that we're talking about. Should it go to the buyer or the seller?
Well, if I'm the seller, I want it.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine that you have an ice cream parlor, ice cream shop. Yep. Well, working capital, that is your current assets minus your current liabilities. Because even if you're doing a brilliant job and you have a long queue outside of everybody wanting to eat your nice ice cream, you cannot get by right without having inventory.
Exactly.
If you haven't paid for any inventory, how are you going to sell that ice cream? And you might need to pay salary. And you might need to pay it before you have sold all of that ice cream out, right? So we're talking about the fundamental cash or cash equivalent that you need to have a smooth, ordinary operation of your business. Like paying salaries, making sure you have inventory, raw material. Okay?
Yes, I'm totally with
That
you.
makes sense, right?
Yeah, it is.
Many people compare it to if you have a fancy car, but if you have no gas, kind of pointless. You can't go anywhere.
No.
That's the working capital.
Okay, that was a good explanation of that one.
Yeah.
Good.
So that if I'm looking to buy your company, I want to make sure, because typically we buy it cash-free, debt-free.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do want to make sure that when I take it over, there is inventory. And there is a way for me to pay salaries straight away. Whatever amounts payable due that I need to pay, right? So it's not a hiccup. So I don't buy it for you for 10 million. And then the next day I realize, wow, I need to inject 2 million into the company in order to keep it running as it should be, right?
Catastrophe.
Yeah. That would be the case if you took the working capital and walked away with it, so to speak.
What?
So when we look at an M&A deal, we want to buy the company cash-free, debt-free.
Yes.
That means that when we calculate the net working capital, we take the current assets less cash minus the current liabilities less debt. So we remove the cash items from both.
Okay.
Yeah, cash and debt.
Yep.
And what are the current assets then?
Yes, how do you know?
Well, anything really that you can turn into cash within 12 months.
Okay.
So short term.
Short term.
So it can be that you have sent invoices to your customers, waiting to get paid. Those are current assets. Or you have salaries accrued that you need to pay. Or you have invoices to pay for the milk and the dairy for producing the raw material for producing the ice cream. Those are current liabilities. Okay.
Yep.
And also, if you have that ice cream shop, people might be paying with a credit card. And it might be so that you don't get that cash straight away. You might get it the next day.
Yes.
right?
Which is the most common if you have
Exactly. That's the current assets, not yet cash in hand, right? But it's money coming in that you can utilize to then pay everything and that you owe that's outstanding ongoingly. Yeah.
So it's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah,
You
and
need
also
to have control.
understand, because as a buyer, you don't want to end up having to value so that the total enterprise value is 10. And then when you take over the business, you have to inject, and then you pay 12 million for something worth 10.
Yes.
So the net working capital is part of the value, the core operations. It should not belong to you. But there are so many variations and so many ways for you as the seller to affect what the net working capital is.
Exactly.
Since you're taking the cash, walking away, you, of course, want to have as much cash as possible.
Yes, of course.
What if you stop buying raw material, you stop buying inventory, so there's basically no ice cream left. You postpone the invoices you're supposed to pay. You delay them so you don't have to use the cash. And you accelerate, make sure you get more cash in faster, and then you take that out and walk away.
Is that fair?
No. But it's a negotiation, because we said cash-free, debt-free. So if you took the cash, you were smart about it. No. So that's why. Well, we approach you as the buyer. We have a letter of intent or a term sheet where we say we have an indicative offer. This is the enterprise value. Then we want to do a financial due diligence. So in the term sheet, we might just say that we want to buy it cash-free, debt-free, and we want a normalized working capital with a target working capital that will be adjusted. That means that during the financial due diligence of your ice cream parlor, I want to find out what working capital do I need? What's the normalized working capital in your business, and what does it need? Because if you were to have a negative working capital, that's generally bad. That means that you have to inject more money in order to grow or even to sustain the business.
Yeah, and you don't want to do that.
No. So that's typically more unattractive. You want it at a ratio between 1.5 and 2. So that then you would take the current liabilities divided by the current assets, and you get a ratio. You want to find that out. No, but say for that, you want to know the normalized working capital. Based on that, the company's needs and what is typical, and that can be highly debatable. What to include, what to not include. How do you value an inventory? Is it old stock that I find has no current value or that I don't believe should be, it's stale, it's old, it's dead weight.
Yeah.
Right? Things like that. So it's complex, very, very complex to identify.
You need to be clear from the beginning.
Very clear. So you want that in the share purchase agreement, define it very clear what you mean. You go line item by line item, what is included, what is not included.
Okay, so this is a good tip.
Yeah. And based on that, typically the buyer will look at 12 or 24 months historically to identify the normalized working capital. Then you will agree on the target working capital.
And that means?
That's what I want the working capital, the net working capital to be the day that you give me the keys.
Okay.
So you don't empty. You don't stop buying inventory. You don't postpone paying your suppliers, etc.
Okay. That was really good explained.
Yeah. Target working capital. So in the negotiations, if you're selling your company, you want to push that down. Me as the buyer, I want to push it up. Because every dollar that goes to working capital is a dollar that you will not get in your pocket. Because that will go from your price.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the target working capital.
Yeah.
Highly debatable. Think about it. And here's a pro tip. If you have a medium-sized or small business and you're thinking about selling it, and you want to optimize what you're getting, and you're hearing now that the working capital is a huge part of what you actually get paid, what you get in your pocket, start to look how you can be more effective with your working capital. Because if you want to claim that it's lower, that the working capital needs are lower, and that your business is highly efficient, you can't say, oh, well, the last week I changed, so the customer invoices are 30 days instead of 90, and I negotiated with my supplier, so I have to pay within 90 days instead. But if you can show that over a 12 months period, you pushed it down so you have a more efficient working capital management, then you have something to come with to show the seller. So start early so that you can argue to the buyer that the tighter working capital is actually sustainable, so that they should be content with that, happy with that working capital.
Yes, and then you're also showing the buyer that you've been thought about this business for a long time and also planned for selling.
Yeah.
That's good. So pro tip would be like plan it early.
Yeah, plan it early if you want to affect the working capital and try to negotiate and target the working capital down. Because you can show that the normalized working capital is lower. But then, okay, now we agree. We fight over it and we agree on the target working capital. Be as clear as ever possible.
Yes.
And if you're a first-time seller and the buyer's more savvy, remember that it's part art and part science. So you can negotiate it. Because the buyer might be very, this is the target and nothing else. And this should be included, that should be put aside, etc. Do make your own assessment. Yeah. But then we have the target. We sign this share purchase agreement. We agree. Target is 2 million in working capital.
Yep.
Then we have the closing. The closing is the day when I get the keys from you, right?
Yep.
That is the day when I want the working capital to be 2 million to hit the target. Right?
Yes.
So then we will take a freeze on that day and we will look at the actual working capital on the closing day, the day that I take over the business.
Okay, so you just watch everything.
Yep. And that's quite complex. There's a lot of things going on the day of taking over a business, on closing. And therefore, you would have a true-up period of 30, 60, 90 days after, where I, as the buyer, can go through the accounting and actually calculate and ensure what the actual working capital was. And then we will do an adjusted working capital. So let's say that the working capital that I come up with after the true-up period is 1.5 million.
Instead of 2.
Then I will go to you and I will say, you know what, you were supposed to get 10 million for your business. Now give me 500,000 back.
Okay.
Because there was a lack in the working capital.
Could that be if the ice cream machine broke down or something?
No.
It's not that.
No. It's about the current, you take the current assets, save and remove the cash, minus the current liabilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I say, okay, you give it back. Or if there's a plus, let's say there's 2.5 million in working capital, then you can say, okay, give me the rest.
Give me the rest.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah. So then you get an extra 500,000.
Wow.
So you can understand that it directly impacts what you get for the business. So that's why it's so highly contagious. And also, there's so much room for you as the seller to actually affect the working capital.
Yeah. So it seems like it is a lot of things to think about, and you need to know what your assets are.
Yeah.
Oof, sounds like a big thing to do.
It is.
It is. But I mean, it affects the price on the company.
Yeah. And think about it again, like everything that's needed to have a normal operations. You need to pay. You have obligations falling due as you go along.
I mean,
That's
you
it.
explained it so well. I mean, working capital, I never understood really the importance of it. But now I do.
Yeah, and I also know that working capital management and working capital where you're not in the M&A deal looks a bit different. So this is how you think about it when you're selling your company or setting up to be attractive so you can be sold.
That's good. So now you have the pro tips about working capital and what you should think of. And here at Business Law Toolbox, we shared it at zero cost for you with a professional business lawyer and investor. We're so happy to share that.
Yeah.
And if you really like our content and think that it's valuable, which I believe you do, share and like and subscribe to our channel, because this knowledge is, very good for you to have in your business.
And we're going to keep doing it. We love
this.
Yeah.
So until next time, but let's not forget, this episode is powered by LE Fitness. And it's also not legal advice. It's knowledge sharing for your benefits, I would say.
Yeah.
Thank you for today. And thank you so much for explaining the working capital for us.
Lovely. Hej då!
Hej då!